Hello to the first video on my channel. Today I want to show you how you can get started with Watson Studio and Watson Machine Learning so you can get up and going and deploy your first machine learning project. We are starting on a clean slate here. So I just went onto my IBM Cloud dashboard and as you can see, we pretty much don't have anything in here. Got no machine learning, no database, just some developer tools and logging. So what we need to do now to do a machine learning project is obviously first we need data. So let's create a database where we can store the data that we want to work with. So we do this by simply creating a resource, and what we will use is the classic DB2. And in a production setting, obviously you would already have a database. You would not set it up yourself as a data scientist. But just to show you how easy it actually is to work with DB2, we will do it ourselves here. The light plan is plenty enough for us. I have read and agreed to the license agreements and create. Takes a moment. We will be using two different Watson services for this demo. The first one will be Watson Studio. So we just go to create resource and then search the catalog for something called Studio, which is here, Watson Studio. The light plan is plenty fine for us, which is free. It's probably covered by my camera here, but I just click create and there it is created. So Watson Studio is your batteries included, start right away, machine learning development environment. It's pretty amazing. It offers you everything you need to get started with pretty much any machine learning problem you can think of. That's the one thing we need. The other thing is Watson Machine Learning, which is our deployment service. Same, just create resource, go to Watson Machine Learning. Again, the light plan is fine for us. Create. So we will use this to deploy our model once we trained it and make it consumable via a REST API. So let's go to resource list, just check what we got here. You got the Watson Machine Learning, Watson Studio. One important detail that I've forgotten this many times before, but you also need a cloud object storage. So cloud object storage, just think S3, like it's just the IBM default object storage implementation. And we just need one of them. It doesn't matter how you name it. It's just something that a Cloud Pack for Data can use. Takes a moment. Okay, let's get back to our resource list. So we have everything we need here. We've got our cloud object storage. We've got our two Watson machine learning services. Watson services, one being Watson machine learning, the other Watson Studio. Okay, we're ready to go. Let's jump into our Cloud Pack for Data. The Cloud Pack for Data, that's kind of a big term. Maybe you've heard it before and you're confused about what it is. It's actually pretty brilliant. IBM has taken all the data and AI products it has, which is a lot. IBM is doing data and AI for over 40 years now. Well, actually even longer, but the oldest product in there is actually 40 years old. So but all those products have been containerized in a pretty cool way so that they can be used together and be deployed on OpenShift, Red Hat OpenShift, which makes you as flexible as you can be. Like you can deploy this on Azure, you can deploy it on AWS, you can deploy it on-prem in an air-gapped environment, wherever you need to. If you're in a super regulated industry, no problem. You can use all those products that make up the Cloud Pack for Data in whichever environment you want. So what we're doing here is the easiest version to do it. We are using a managed Cloud Pack for Data, which is the Cloud Pack for Data data platform, which is provided by IBM, and we just consume it on demand. So we are using the two Watson products that we're using, Watson Studio and Watson Machine Learning. They are part of this great big Cloud Pack for Data. And the first thing we need to do to use Watson Studio is create a project. So let's do that. Create an empty project. We will just call it ML Live Demo. We don't need a description. There you see the cloud object storage that we created before. And let's just click create. This is our ML Live demo project. And a project is the logical entity that contains everything that you are doing in this project, in this use case. So it can contain all sorts of assets, Jupyter Notebooks, data connections, the models, everything's contained in this project. So first things first, data. We have created our DB2 instance, and now we need to connect it to this project. So, conveniently enough, there is a preset for that. Just create a new asset, create a connection, and there's an IBM DB2 preset. And let's select this. What do we call it? Connection name ML live demo DB. Don't need a description, but now we need quite a set of credentials here. This can be a bit confusing at first, but they are actually really easy to find. We jump back into our IBM Cloud interface, and there we go to our DB2 instance. There it is. And here we could go to the UI, which you can get those credentials there too, but the easiest way is to go here in the service credentials, and you can create a completely new set of service credentials. So you can throw them away if you like. You can have different credentials for different services, which is a really big plus for security. Let's be really simple, your service credentials with the manager role. And here they are. And they come in the form of one big old JSON file, which is a bit overwhelming at first, but it's actually very convenient because you can use this whole file or this whole JSON object in some services and just throw it in there, and that's going to do. For us, we just need some things out of there. So let's do it like that. Just split the screen here. So what do we need? We need the database to connect to. That's always a default name. Those things are called BlueDB. We need the host name or the IP address. Let's see, where is it? Oops, collapse again. The host name, host name, here it is. Let's get this thing. Then we need the port. There it is. We need a username and we need a password. Are those? Here it is. Random username and the password. Okay, let's test the connection. Oops. Oh, right, we forgot one thing. Port is SSL enabled. We need to check that box. Let's try again. There we go. Okay. Create, and there we have our database connection. So next thing, code. We actually need to do something. So what we need is a Jupyter Notebook editor. And you can just simply start from scratch, which you would do when you, start from scratch, but I have prepared something for us. I have actually prepared some code that we can use for this demo. So I can just copy this notebook URL in here from my personal GitHub page. Let's give it a name, ML Live Demo Notebook, and create. So if we click onto this ML Live Demo Notebook, we can see the code that we just cloned from GitHub. So if we start editing it, we want to edit it, we press the edit button, and it's going to start provisioning runtime for us with 2 virtual CPUs and 8 GB of RAM. And there we are, ready to go. Well, kind of. First, we need to find some credentials. The project ID is the first thing we need. We can find this in the Watson Studio user interface. So there is the project. Maybe let's start from here so we can keep track where we are. We are back in our Cloud Pack for Data interface, and there we've got our ML Live Demo project. If we jump in there, we are here in our Assets tab again. If we go to Manage, we see our project ID. So let's get that and paste this in here. Now we need an API key. This API key is for the communication between the Cloud Pack for Data and our IBM Cloud instance. So that means we need to create it on the IBM Cloud level, not on the Cloud Pack for Data level. So we need to get back to our IBM Cloud interface. Then we go to Manage and to Access and API keys. And as you see, I've already created some here, and I can just create a new one. Live Demo, I think is what we called it. And let's create. So this gives me an API key, which I actually need to copy. I cannot retrieve it once I close this window. I copied it, and we go over here and paste this in here. So this Watson machine learning notebook can authorize itself against our IBM Cloud interface. Those are the credentials that we need for now. What happened here is we created a client for our Watson machine learning service. So if you remember, that's the deployment service that we want to use. But to actually use it, to actually deploy our model, we have to manually create a space in this Watson machine learning service. So we jump back into our Cloud Pack for Data UI, and we create a new deployment space. So let's just ML Live Demo Deployment space. That's a good name, I think. It uses the same object storage, and well, all the other things are not important at this point. We click create, space is ready. Let's have a look at it. Okay, nothing in there, not really surprising, but what we need is this space ID anyway. Find this here and let's paste this in here. Hey, success. Okay, again, how do you start a machine learning project? With the data. So we already created the database, we already connected the database to our Watson Studio instance. Now we need to load this data into this Jupyter Notebook to work with it. And well, conveniently enough, there is functionality for exactly that. If I go here to the top right, there's this 0100 tab, and it gives me an option. If I go to connections, well, I see this name here, MLive Demo DB. Oh, great, that's the database we created. And it gives me the option to insert the code that I need to load this data right there into my notebook. Like, this is the easiest way you ever connect it to a database, I promise you. So we do that. Insert to code, pandas data frame. Now we just need to select our schema. That's it, credit limit table, and that's all we need. Ta-da! Here it is. Okay, let's run the cell and see if it will actually produce the correct data. Yeah, the warning doesn't matter. Yep, there it is. Awesome. We've got our data here in a data frame. I've got all the things that we want. We want the age, gender, the education level, marital status, and here the credit limit, which is what we will want to predict as a target. Just a little change here. We need to name it as data frame to be compatible with the rest of our code. Okay. So this whole part is pretty generic Keras stuff. I mean, if you ever created a regression model in Keras, that's probably this might be familiar to you. So what we're doing here is we convert all the data types to float, then we choose the features that we want to work with. At this point, we're just working with numeric features, just simple. We split the data set into train and test data set, and then we create our model, which in this case is a very simple neural network. It's got 2 hidden layers with 10 neurons each, and 1 output neuron, which means it is a regression neural network. And once we define this net, we do the model.fit, which is the magic line of code, which triggers the actual training, and it uses the train data set and the train target, which is what we want to predict, the credit limit. It does this for 100 epochs, special size of 50, and it does a validation split of 0.2, so 20% of the data is used for validation. Now let's run this. Okay, we're done. Actually, that's kind of stupid. The loss spiked really hard in the last epoch, but it's going to be good enough. So let's check it. We just create a random number and take 1 sample from the test data set and let the model predict it, and we compare to the ground truth. And the prediction of the model is $3,786, and the ground truth would be $3,787. Well, that's ridiculously close. So yeah, that's a plenty good enough model for now. Okay, so now we've got our model, but we need to deploy it to be able to use it in any way. So what we need to do is save it as an H5 model, and that's kind of a little trick here. To be more efficient, you can tar the model, the H5 model, to be a TGZ file, and then you can deploy this. And there we just grabbing our TensorFlow version, which is 2.9 at this point, and we need to define this in the metadata. By the way, all this code is public, so if you want to do the same thing, you can just use the code I already created. So this took a short moment, and what happened in the short moment is the model was uploaded to Watson Machine Learning. So it went from this notebook to our Watson Machine Learning instance that we can use to deploy it. Let's check if everything worked. Okay, this looks decent. We've got the metadata to the model that we created. It's called credit limit model. It was created well, pretty much right now. And let's get the list of models that we have, which is at this point just 1 model. So if we change the parameters and train again, we will obviously get a longer list of models that we can choose from. So let's deploy the model that we just created. Just need to run that cell. And yep, initializing. That might take a few seconds here. Okay, 30 seconds later, we've got a successful deployment. At least that's what the output says here. But, well, never trust an output, so let's check if it actually works. Okay, we've got our URL to this deployment. Let's grab some test data set on customer age, month on book, blah, blah, blah. Let's use this data set to test the model. Okay, okay, that's also very, very close. The model result, that the deployed model, we actually got this here from the deployed version of the model. And the ground truth is really close, like 1,437 point something dollar is the prediction, and the ground truth $1,438. So, well, not only is it very precise, it's also deployed online in a scalable and reliable way. So this includes this demo. Thanks a lot for sticking with me through the whole thing. This is probably going to be the first video in a whole series, because what we can do now is we can start to properly version control our models, like do the version control on all the data and all the parameters that we used for training. Then we can build a real automated pipeline to deploy those models. And probably the most exciting thing, we can use a specific IBM product to do the monitoring for not only performance, but also fairness of the model, and integrate that into the pipeline. So there are a lot of really exciting things that I still want to show you. But for now, that's it. Thanks.